Fireside Chat, a new avatar, how to become leaders of the Metaverse. Louise Claassen is a program director and executive fellow at Headley Business School Africa. She designs, develops, and facilitates people management initiatives that equip leaders, managers, and specialists to elevate the present and to create a compelling future. Roberta Kochi is co-director of Latitudes Online, an online marketplace for contemporary art from Africa. She has over a decade's experience working in the cultural space in South Africa and is passionate about creating platforms for creatives on the continent. The moderator is Yavi Madurai, a digital transformation strategist and executive director of Pabwa, who describes herself as an Afro-optimist techie. Her career spans 25 years as a corporate executive, member of boards, strategist, techie, entrepreneur, activist, and AFCFTA advocate and specialist.
Facebook changed its name to Meta a few months ago, giving rise to Mark Zuckerberg's dream of a metaverse. Microsoft have announced the enterprise metaverse they are building. So if you're still referring to Meta as Facebook and you think this is all too much, consider that metaverses have been around for quite some time now, essentially defined as digital shared universes where we can take on another personality, another name, and anything else we want to. We can party with someone, work together on collaborative projects from halfway across the world, go on a date, be as skinny or as tall as we want to, or have a full buying and selling experience, to name but a few. A few years ago, we cautiously played around with the online world of Second Life. But with technological advancements, today's actual Second Life is driven through AR and VR in the metaverse. Just a few days ago, on February 28th, Africa Rare, Africa's first metaverse, was launched in Johannesburg, South Africa, to unlock African creativity and connect Africa to the global digital economy. Plans were announced for commercialization of the 3D virtual reality experience that is set in Ubuntu Land, a virtual world that marries creativity, cryptocurrency, and commerce. While the land issue rages unabated in South Africa, virtual land will soon be available to purchase and develop. MTN are the first to have joined Africa Rare with an upcoming 12 by 12 village, 144 plots of real estate secured of the 204,642 plots of land available in Ubuntu Land, which is positioned and priced according to a tiered value system. So, living a second life online or living the other half of your life digitally, whichever way you choose to look at it, the 7-layer metaverse offers humanity endless opportunities in its simulated digital environment that combines augmented reality AR, virtual reality VR, and blockchain, along with concepts from social media to create spaces for a rich user interaction mimicking the real world. Human beings having a digital life, dual world experience. This is the essence of the metaverse. Hi Louise, hi Roberta. Happy International Women's Day. So we're talking about the metaverse today, as we know, and I want us to kick off the idea or the perspective of how you use the metaverse or how the metaverse integrates, whether into your personal, whether into your professional lives. But give us a perspective, give us the angle at which it has its space, it has its positioning in the world that you currently operate in, especially from a professional perspective.
Over the last 3 years, myself and my 2 explorer partners at Henley Business School have been working with VR to figure out what it means in a business school environment. What does it mean for our students and their context, and behind them, the businesses that they work for. So, you know, virtual reality is also called the empathy machine of the emerging tech world. And so in an educational context, the possibilities that it brings are enormous. And so what we have done is we've created a number of different ways in which virtual reality, whether it's from a film perspective, an immersive experience perspective, or from a social VR perspective, which is really the closest that we come to a metaverse experience right now, fits into our programs. And mostly what we create are virtual immersions to either different places like Kenya and now also to Nigeria, but also to different spaces in a sense, whether it's the future, whether it's technology, whether it's empathy, whatever the brief is that we work to, we use virtual reality to really code that experience in a very deep way.
Roberta, what is your angle? What is your positioning in the metaverse and in that particular space? What's your perspective on it?
Sure, thanks, Yavi. So cool hearing your perspective, Louise, and it just shows like how much potential there is because we're all doing such radically different things. So yeah, basically I sell art online. So my business partner, Lucy McGarry, and I started Latitudes online during the first lockdown. And yeah, if there's one thing that I've learned about starting an online business, it is how quickly the world is changing and how much possibility there is out there. So as we all know, COVID hit the creative industry really, really hard. So during lockdown, we came up with the idea to build a platform that would allow independent artists, curators, galleries, arts organizations from across the African continent to all sell their art online at a time when physical retail just wasn't possible. And we launched in July 2020 with about 300 or so artists, and we now have over 1,000 artists selling their work on Latitudes. And I must say that pre-COVID, I think we probably wouldn't have had the guts or the wherewithal to launch an online business of such scale. But, you know, the world changed, and like so many other people, we were forced to adapt. But now what's mind-blowing is that it's only been 18 months and the world is changing again in ways like we just couldn't have imagined. Because for me, obviously art is so tied with NFTs, which we'll get into later. But to think that when we launched Latitudes in 2020, it was only like proper crypto junkies who knew what NFTs were. But now in the last few months with artists like Beeple selling their NFTs for $69 million, you can't have a conversation with art without the subject of NFTs coming up. So yeah, to answer your question, we are completely immersed in this new world. And like we're finding the possibilities so exciting because, just on the regular e-commerce sites, like every time we ship a physical artwork to a market outside of our normal market, like say the Bahamas or Slovenia, I'm just blown away by the power the regular internet has to connect us. I mean, we're sitting in South Africa, connecting with 1,000 artists across the continent and shipping their works to people across the whole world. But now you add to that the metaverse where as Louise showed, like people from any corner of the globe can actually be in one room together in an instant. And the potential of this for all industries is mind-boggling. And I mean, we haven't even started to scratch the surface of what's possible. But basically at Latitudes, we're exploring how these new technologies can help build a global market for art from Africa, and also how it can help to make the playing field more equitable for artists and creatives in general.
That is such an important aspect that we sometimes forget is the technology equity or equality when we look at it from a global perspective. But let's come back to Louise. Louise, there's a story about pink hair and the metaverse. We've had a discussion around how you actually have embraced the digital world, not just the metaverse, but the digital world, and how you use the metaverse from a professional, but also from a personal perspective. And tell us the story about the pink hair. I'm sure everyone is dying to hear the story about the pink hair now. But just give us a perspective of how you have embraced, over 20 years old, people think that, we don't know how to kind of operate any gadget or anything from in terms of digital and technology. So give us your experience, plot for us and give us an idea of how you use the digital world, how you've embraced the digital world, and how you use the metaverse specifically in terms of both your professional and your personal life.
Thanks so much, Yavi. Yes, I'm 49 and I'm an edtech entrepreneur. So one has to get one's head around that, right? So I spend quite a lot of time in VR and specifically on my Oculus Quest 2, and the pink hair story. At the end of last year, we went traveling, and I was determined that I wanted pink hair, and I'd never really done that before. And it's only when we came back from these travels and I had my pink hair, and I absolutely loved my pink hair, that I realized when I went back into Altspace, which is the social VR world that I spent quite a bit of time in, that pink hair desire actually came from my avatar. So I have a very fun avatar that I switch up the look quite often, although I'm very invested that my avatar Lulubelle has a particular look and feel and vibe and projects into that world in a particular way. But she's funky, and she's out there, and she's my girl. And so how interesting that my avatar should become my style icon, right?
Absolutely.
And I found it so interesting that there's such a fluidity between my physical world self and my digital world self, my virtual world self, and how these two are starting to influence each other. So there's really this continuity between who I am in my physical world and who I am in my digital world, but in an expansive way. So the metaverse, as you said, is a 3D world, and it's focused on social connection. There's no single metaverse. I think it's really a connection of different 3D worlds. And while social media and other digital technologies certainly pave the world towards these 3D virtual worlds, the experience is very, very different. So while I'm on social media and it's a 2D experience, the virtual reality, I'm in virtual reality. It's an immersive experience, and I experience myself and others in a spatial way. So what do I mean by that? When you and I are on Zoom together, or when we're with a group of people, if I'm on your left, you are not necessarily on my right. We don't share space. But when we are in a virtual reality space together, in a social virtual reality space together, we share space. If you're to my left, I'm to your right. And that's cued by audio as well. So sound is incredibly important in the VR world. If you're walking away from me, your sound fades. If you're walking towards me, your sound becomes louder. So how does VR play a role in my life? Well, in social VR, for example, and primarily in Altspace at the moment, we're exploring other social VR spaces as well. There are a number. I attend events. I sometimes join meditation classes, which are quite wonderful actually in that environment, because you can build these different worlds and each come with its different vibes. So I can be on a mountaintop in Tibet with prayer flags and little bells ringing, or I can be in a forest with all the sounds that go with that experience. But I'm part of a group called Educators in VR that meet up in Altspace quite regularly. And I've met some really fascinating people that do such different things. And I've learned an absolute fortune about what can be done in the world of education, in the world of coaching, in the world of therapy even. There's such a thing as avatar coaching for teenagers. People conduct coaching and therapy sessions in social VR. It brings its own benefits to those kinds of situations. Now, in more of a professional sense, we've partnered, for example, with Black Rhino VR, and they are an amazing tech company that's based in Nairobi in Kenya. And with them, we've created immersive experiences, or VR immersions, for students. So we would create, for example, a VR film with a company called Sultan VR, who is an agri-tech company. And for 10 minutes, a student can be in their world through that VR film. You feel like you're on their test farm. You feel like you're experiencing the tech that they bring into that supply chain. It's a very vivid and memorable experience. And then we engage with Mailu to understand what his vision is for his business. And we have several experiences like that have now become part of Henley's Immersive Case Center, which is a really interesting and exciting development in itself.
Roberta, you are, while Louise is busy in the edtech space and embraces, integrates her physical world and her personal world or her online world, and it's all just, it's all there. She kind of just takes it all as one fluid space. What has been the experience? What has been your experience? You alluded to it in the beginning where you spoke about, lockdown came and the art world from a digital perspective has changed. So give us a view of what that looks like, almost on a daily basis. How does it work? Where does it integrate into the business of the art world, of the art gallery specifically? And what does that mean to you and to the business going forward?
Sure. So Yeah, there's so much possibility, and it's amazing how the art world took so long to change, and now it's just changing so quickly. And I think what we're really interested is the intersection between the metaverse and the physical world, and how these two worlds are starting to cross over. And I mean, as Louise said, you're being influenced by your avatar. I mean, it's real. It's so amazing. And so, for instance, like, one of the things we do is we're working with a partner who creates these incredible parties in the metaverse where people from around the world get together and they listen to music and they dance in a nightclub, but there's also art everywhere on the walls. And, as is typical in the metaverse, you can buy the NFTs of that art. But what's really exciting for us is we've actually made it now that you can buy the physical artwork. So you're at a party in the metaverse, you buy this work, and it actually arrives at your house in the real world. And I think that's so cool. And for me, like, whatever industry you work in, you can start to think around the potential for bringing the metaverse and the physical world together in this way.
When we look at from an edtech environment, and whether that is little kids or whether that is, mid-career level people, being able to study becomes that much more advanced, more expanded when we look at the world of edtech and our ability to grow ourselves from an academic perspective. What are some of the things that you are looking at in terms of the possibilities specifically around what the potential of the metaverse holds for edtech going forward?
Thank you. It's such an important question. And there are so many links in that question. And I think that the part of it that I want to address actually comes back to the content part. So part of what we've set ourselves as an objective for Immersive is to create a pure play metaverse educational institution. So in other words, and it might take us 5 years to get there, but what does an educational institution look like that functions purely in the metaverse? So anybody can access it, providing, of course, it has all those other connectivity elements in place. But if you have that, then you've got access to this school in the metaverse, or this educational institution in the metaverse. So if that exists, then the question is, what do we offer? And what does that mean in how that is experienced? Mark Zuckerberg said a really interesting thing about his vision for the metaverse, in that he wants it to be like what Spotify is to music. So he wants the metaverse to be a place in which you can visit any moment in time and any place. And I think that is exactly the opportunity that we have in front of us here. But for me, the focus is exactly our continent. It is, how do we encode these stories of ours on this continent in an immersive way, so that from an educational perspective, we can access those stories from anywhere, but in this metaverse. So I want kids to be able to visit Lalibela in Ethiopia in the 11th century when that was built. I want them to be able to go there, because that is an amazing place.
Yes.
I want them to be able to experience the city of Benin in Nigeria in its heyday.
Absolutely.
I want them to go to a goldsmith in what is now Ghana and experience that craft. So I really want Africa to be presented not just as the consequence of colonialization and all the challenges that we have now. Yes, that too. But let's tell a really full story of who we are as a continent, make it visceral and make it immersive.
So just coming back to the NFTs, how does NFTs work in the art world, and what does that mean for any industry going forward?
Sure. So NFTs, basically they serve as a way to verify an asset. So they can tell you exactly who created that item and who owns it. And this, as you can imagine, is so valuable in the art world, where, forgery is a major problem and copyright infringements are problems. So it's solving some very, very real problems there. And we kind of see a future where every single physical artwork in the physical world is sold with a digital twin, i.e. an NFT. And this digital twin can help solve many problems because it's telling you exactly who owns the artwork and who created it. But what's more, it can also, it has a really cool function that builds royalties into the NFT for artworks. So for instance, Louise, I could buy an artwork from you today for 1,000 Rand, and then you become super famous. And in 10 years' time, I sell it to Yavi for 1,000,000 Rand, and you don't see a cent of that, Louise. But with NFTs, you can build that into the smart contract that artists will receive royalties in perpetuity. So, in a nutshell, it's basically revolutionizing the way art is sold and bought online, and it's giving a lot of agency to the artist. And this is especially important in places like Africa, where artists have been historically underrepresented for so long, and women in general around the world have been so underrepresented in the art world. And I think, just the other day I was chatting to an artist in Nigeria. He's 24 years old, and he's sitting in his studio in Nigeria, and he's selling NFT after NFT for over 4,000 Rand a pop. And what's so great about that is he's doing it on his own. He's taking ownership of his career. And that for me is truly phenomenal, and how they're really powerful, shows how NFTs can be really powerful in the art world.
Our world is about to change. If we thought that post-lockdown things have changed so radically, it's about to change even more so, if Mark Zuckerberg has anything to do about it, or Microsoft for that matter. But going forward, we can then say that there are opportunities abound, whether you're a human having a digital experience, or whether you're living a digital life online, whether you're selling and buying, whether you're looking for those opportunities and creating them, or whether you are as skinny as ever, as the way my avatar currently looks. The metaverse opens up so many opportunities for us to be able to live a life that is beyond what we currently know the world to be. So the metaverse is going to give us an experience that we've never ever had before as human beings. Thank you so much, and a happy International Women's Day.